welcome to Crash Course. Today we're going to talk about French land claims. There are several reasons why the Europeans became so interested in the Americas during 1415 to 1750. Economic and political factors were the main cause of this interest.
Because, you know, money and power is always good.
The French authorization rule continued in New France, while the native people's clan form of government changed. Economically, fur trade became dominant rather than agriculture. People demanded fur over crops.
As we all know, being classy wins over food.
Overpopulation in England and religious persecution were other factors of driving Europeans towards the Americas. In the colony of Jamestown, slaves made up most of the workforce. A colony in Massachusetts Bay, established in 1629 by the Puritans, a group of religious descendants who came to the New World so they would have a location to establish purer church than the one that existed in England. Governor John Winthrop envisioned the colony as a city upon a hill. Religious descendant led to founding of several more European colonies. 1608, Samuel de Champlain, known as the Father of New France, would found the first permanent settlement in Canada, known as Quebec City.
Who wouldn't want to be the father of a country no one wanted to live in?
Followed by the Jesuit missionaries, explorers, and fur traders, the French would begin claiming much of North America, reaching as far south as the Gulf of Mexico. Like most European colonies, the French governed their American colonies with an authoritarian bureaucracy who ultimately reported back to their mother country. Until his death in 1635, Samuel de Champlain was the chief administrator or governor of New France and all lower governors of the French viceroyalties. The Anglican peoples occupied most of the French conquered land. The Anglicans were governed by a complex clan system. Within each clan, there were bands governed by chiefs who reported to leaders of each clan. This was most likely changed once the French claimed their land. Yet, the French tactics of colonization were much less harsh than the Spanish. They mainly wished to establish trade connections with the natives rather than enslaving them.
This explains why Canadians are so nice.
Before colonizing the Americas, the French had already traveled to the Western Hemisphere to fish cod off the coast of Newfoundland. Once they came in contact with the Indians, they began profiting from the rich fur trade, which was high in demand in Europe.
Because obviously, fur is a fashion statement everyone should be a part of.
Before settlement, much of the native population were hunters or gatherers. They would soon begin to benefit from the French fur trade as well. The French economy in the New World would prove to be less bustling than the tobacco and silver mining in the British and Spanish colonies. The harsh Canadian climate was not much of an attraction for European settlers. The form of economic activity in the New World would create a cycle of slow growth in New France. The low immigration rates into French colonies caused landowners to abandon farming and take up fur trapping and fishing. These jobs required little manpower. This would cause slow industrial and agricultural growth, which additionally caused less demand for immigration. So essentially nobody wanted to come to New France, which made the economy grow slow, which led people wanting to come even less.
But who would blame them? No one wants to show up at a party alone.
Another fact that lowered immigration into New France was Louis XV ban on Protestants entering his New World colonies. The social order of the French colonies in America is greatly contrast to the social order of Spanish and English colonies, especially in regards to the native population. Interactions between natives and French have been described in some cases as friendly and diplomatic. Native life continued much as it had before French occupation. Many of the converted natives lived in reserves on French lands, and it is likely that the French married into many native families. The French occupied vacant lands and traded with the natives, rather than exploit them. Slavery was much less common in the French colonies than it was in the British and Spanish colonies. Slavery was mainly practiced in the more southern plantations of North America. French immigrants to the Americas could most likely experience a much more heightened ability of social advancement in the Canadian colonies. Women also experienced some social mobility in the colonies. It is known that there were several successful businesswomen in the colonies. Not all of them were widowed.
So, ladies, you don't have to murder your husband to be successful.
In the Canadian portion of French land claims, there was little change for the natives in the sense that the French only wished to establish trade with them. In the Louisiana portion of French land claims, much of the native population worked French plantations alongside African slaves. For immigrants from France, social mobility was the most prominent change in contrast to the life in their mother country. The primary objective of French colonists in regards to the native population was to establish trade with them, because it was a trade relationship and not a relationship of exploitation. The French depended on the natives' well-being to gain profit from fur trade.
Just wanted to trade.
So when Jesuit missionaries came to convert natives, they were not converted with any force, in contrast to the case of natives in Spanish colonies. So the natives who did not wish to convert were religiously unchanged. The natives who did convert were changed, because obviously their religious orientation was changed, and also because many of them moved into reserves and lived in closer contact with other French colonists. The other people who faced real danger in the attempts to convert with natives were the Jesuits themselves. Occasionally the missionaries' attempts to convert the natives were met with some hostility on the native side.
It tends to happen when someone tries to change someone else's mindset.
They also forced danger from an enemy tribes of the Huron and Algonquin tribes they allied with. Some French missionaries were destroyed by Iroquois tribes.
Let's see what's in the secret compartment. Oh look, French fries. Wonderful. They're frozen. An open letter to French fries. Dear French fries, with your greasy, crispy, and goldenness, you have delighted people all over the world for years. Though you're pretty much a staple food in common society, the French have unfairly taken credit for your existence. You are, in fact, a potato, which was brought over from Europe to Europe from the Spanish. Also, no one is even sure that the French even came up with you, and it might have been the Belgians. I mean, Belgium has waffles, but that doesn't mean the French just get to take credit because their name also starts with an F. The French also already have toast, vanilla, and even maids. Isn't this a copyright issue? So French fries, we support your endeavors and hope you continue to ruin everyone's diets, but we do strongly suggest that you drop your first name and go simply by Fries, just to prevent any future confusion or lawsuits. Best wishes, Joanna Green.